Britain's most secretive drug kingpin was able to avoid capture for over 20 months, running a multi-million-pound empire throughout Europe. For years, Jamie Stevenson was a name whispered throughout Scotland's underworld, planning a major global campaign from the shadows. With fruit shipments acting as cover, he trafficked tens of millions of dollars worth of narcotics, including fake Valium and cocaine. Stevenson stayed hidden and managed to avoid the authorities despite multiple raids, arrests, and intelligence breakthroughs until February 2022, when a tip-off finally led to his capture. One of the most complex criminal networks in the UK was brought to an end with his arrest. Before being brought to justice, this is how he developed his empire and remained concealed for so long. Stevenson's criminal path started well before his 2020 vanishing. Growing up in South Lanarkshire, Stevenson had smartly entered Glasgow's underworld, winning the confidence of major players by means of careful planning and thoughtful thinking. Unlike so many of his contemporaries, he wasn't a loud, attention-grabbing thug. Stevenson instead became well known for his intelligence, calculating nature, and patience. Though he became engaged in several unlawful activities in the early 2000s, it wasn't until 2001 that his name first made headlines. Outside a Springburn, Glasgow pub, Stevenson was suspected of planning the shooting and murder of his former best friend, Tony McGovern. Nevertheless, the case against him collapsed, and he was never found guilty. His quiet following the event only increased his mysterious nature, cementing his place in the Glasgow underworld. Stevenson's criminal activity had gone beyond violent crime and into the realm of money laundering by 2007. Under a rigorous surveillance operation known as Operation Folklore, Stevenson was found to be laundering over £1 million in illegal profits. Arrested, tried, and sentenced to prison time as one of Scotland's most senior criminal figures. Serving his term, however, didn't reduce Stevenson's activity. Stevenson had changed when he was freed in 2014. His former violent, wild attitude was gone. Operating as a planner, he started the groundwork for a worldwide drug empire. Stevenson made the most of his prison time on planning his next move. He employed a methodical approach upon his release, relying mostly on shell firms, trusted associates, and foreign connections to expand his business. While Stevenson stayed behind the scenes, organizing everything from afar, Gerard Carbin, his stepson, became one of his main right-hand men, managing logistics and operations. Stevenson had started laying the groundwork by 2015 for his most ambitious project yet, a multi-country network including money laundering, drug trafficking, and even the large-scale production of fake drugs. Knowing the dangers of being discovered, Stevenson played the long game. He didn't need to show off his riches or be spotted in public. Instead, he created a network of supposedly legitimate businesses, fruit import companies, shipping logistics firms, and offshore accounts that would serve as fronts for his illicit activities. The transportation of bananas was among the most important endeavors. These fruit shipments, which were regularly imported into the UK, provided the perfect cover for smuggling drugs. Stevenson made sure that these shipments seemed entirely authentic, so they could pass without being noticed by the authorities. Drugs were being concealed within the crates of fruit. Among his main vendors in Spain, David Bilsland was also connected to the operation. Knowing one another for years, the two men were essential in arranging deliveries across Europe through their secret encounters often conducted in hotel lobbies. Stevenson's company was fully operational by early 2020. Glasgow was receiving dozens of banana shipments from South America almost every week. However, the authorities were beginning to identify patterns. Too many deliveries were passing through without any clear justification. Originally expecting only another shipment of fruit, Border Force agents started to be skeptical. Then in September 2020, a refrigerated container arrived at the port of Dover. Although it appeared to be a regular fruit shipment, something didn't seem quite right. Behind the rows of bananas, border officers discovered 952 kilograms of cocaine wrapped tightly in silver foil as they began to unpack the crates. The street value of the cargo was estimated at £76 million. This discovery was not accidental. It was the final clue that connected Stevenson's activities to a larger international drug smuggling operation. The cargo was registered to Glasgow Fruit Market Limited, a business Stevenson oversaw behind the scenes. But the front had gone flawlessly. The man listed as the director of the company had no idea his name was being used to help commit such a major crime. Authorities immediately initiated a thorough investigation into the incident. They called it Operation Pepperoni, which involved monitoring the company and its connections to Stevenson. That was just the beginning. That same year, French law enforcement made a major breakthrough by infiltrating EncroChat, a European-wide encrypted communication network used by criminal organizations. This breach gave investigators access to tens of thousands of encrypted communications. As they decoded them, it became evident that Stevenson was at the center of a major plot. Discussing logistics, contacts, and shipping information, his encrypted messages appeared throughout the system. Though his name never surfaced clearly, the timing, contacts, and encoded language pointed back to him. The encrypted messages were frightening. There were references to Big Tasty, a nickname that aptly described Stevenson's physicality, movements, and decision-making process. More significantly, the chats disclosed something much more alarming. This was not only one kind of drug being smuggled. The talks were dominated by those about pills, pharmaceutical presses, and boxes arriving at ports in Spain, Scotland, and the Middle East. In addition to managing the cocaine smuggling ring, Stevenson was also running a fake pharmaceutical business, making millions of counterfeit Valium tablets for the black market. Investigators quickly discovered a facility in Rochester, Kent, where significant amounts of fake Valium pills were being produced. A raid on the June 2020 property exposed the whole extent of the operation. With machinery capable of pressing 258,000 tablets per hour, the plant was arranged like a factory. Cheap, simple to manufacture, and very poisonous when combined with other chemicals. During the operation, over 13.5 million tablets were confiscated. Investigators thought more than 28 million had already been distributed on the streets. Despite the scale of the operation, Stevenson kept away from view. He was not present at the manufacturing and was not physically involved in the daily operations. He instead remotely supervised the operation. He oversaw his team using encrypted messages, informed colleagues about shipments, and gave comprehensive plans for upcoming activities. While Stevenson was managing these large projects, his colleagues were also lending a hand. Under the control of his stepfather, Gerard Carbin, the factory in Kent, which was producing counterfeit medicines, was operating. Other network members, like Ryan McPhee, who oversaw the transportation of drugs between homes, storage lockers, and cars. But Stevenson remained a shadowy figure, a mastermind who didn't have to be involved in the daily grind of the criminal organization. He was always one step ahead, effectively and exactly managing operations. Although authorities were unable to locate him, he was believed to have traveled between Spain, the Netherlands, and possibly even Abu Dhabi. He remained completely hidden from law enforcement and used no bank accounts or phones in his own name. Though he had vanished, his network kept functioning, smuggling drugs and manufacturing fake medications. Investigators finally got a tip in 2022 that sent them to a man running in the Dutch countryside. The man was thought to be Stevenson. He did not resist when authorities approached to apprehend him. The criminal mastermind was back in custody after being on the run for 20 months. Stevenson's arrest ended a 2-year hunt, However, the officials still had more work to do. With mountains of evidence against him, the argument against him was already formidable. Stevenson initially rejected all, going so far as to accuse his former best friend, Stephen Jameson, of orchestrating the entire affair. Still, the defense presented a powerful case. From behind the scenes, Stevenson was shown in the EncroChat communications, giving directions, handling logistics, and controlling the action. More of his network began to fall apart as the trial went on. Associates such as Gerard Carbin and David Bilsland and others started to turn against him, admitting guilt and providing crucial evidence against him. Eventually, Stevenson changed his plea to guilty. The man who had formerly managed one of Europe's most complex and large-scale drug networks pleaded guilty to his crimes. He received a 20-year prison term at the Glasgow High Court, 12 years for his involvement in cocaine trafficking, and 8 years for his role in the fake pharmaceutical scheme. His friends received different sentences, with Gerard Carbin serving 7 years, and others like Paul Bowes, Lloyd Cross, and Ryan McPhee sentenced to 4 to 6 years. Although Stevenson's conviction ended his empire, the authorities continued to work to recover the profits from his offenses, including luxury watches, jewelry, and money. He was additionally given a serious crime prevention order so that he could not rebuild his empire. But the story did not end there. Arguing that his 2 offenses should be regarded as part of the same operation, Stevenson's defense team filed an appeal. The court agreed in 2023 and reduced his sentence to 16 years and 3 months, commencing from the day of his arrest. Jamie Stevenson's case is a terrifying reminder of how quietly a criminal mastermind can work to create an empire spanning several nations and remain undetected for years. It also reveals how justice finally catches up with a criminal, even if they are extremely elusive. In this case, was justice really served? Or did Stevenson somehow escape the full repercussions of his behavior? If you like this crime story, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.